Well, hello and welcome. Thank you for being here at the 15th Annual Sunscreen Film Festival. We're so glad that you could at least be here with us virtually for the Q&A and that you brought Flannery to us. You've been nominated for Best Documentary. So thank you. We're glad to have you. Do you want to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about who you are and your role with the film?
Thanks. We're just delighted to be in this film festival. I'm a native Floridian from Jacksonville originally, and I taught at the University of Tampa. Shout out to the filmmakers at the University of Tampa, and my heart goes out to them too. We lost someone this summer who founded the program. But have a lot of love for Tampa, St. Petersburg. It's a great arts community, great film community. And so getting involved with Flannery, I'll let Mark Bosco talk about how that started and then how he brought me in as the filmmaker to help develop this program. Go ahead, Mark.
Hi, nice to be with you all here, and thanks, Julie, for the invitation. I'm Mark Bosco. I work now at Georgetown University, so I'm zooming in from DC. I'm kind of what we've been calling the Flannery geek. Now I've converted Elizabeth into even a bigger geek than I am with the Flannery. She loves her as well. But really, it was a kind of a combination of how do we tell the story of someone who deserves a really good film, a really good documentary. And I was working on Flannery O'Connor as a scholar, and a good friend of mine who had known some of the people that were close to Flannery O'Connor due to his time at Harvard, Sally and Robert Fitzgerald, are big names in Flannery O'Connor world because Flannery lived with them in Connecticut and they became the stewards of her stuff. So basically I received about 12, 13 hours of good interviews with people that were passing away, really dying in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I showed them to Elizabeth. I sat on them actually, these videos for a little while, but I showed them to Elizabeth and I said, isn't this the backbone of a good documentary? And she saw the videos and she says, yeah.
You know, if you love literature and spirituality as Mark does, and if you grow up in the South and have any interest in, our horrific, tragic, incredible story around the Civil War, around civil rights, around racism, and how the community comes to terms with it and does not come to terms with it, right? This is why Flannery O'Connor's fiction and her life story continue to resonate with us today. I was just reading an article that came out this morning in Nashville with a Black writer from Mississippi, just trying to talk about, absolutely, there's few writers who are as good as deconstructing white racism as Flannery O'Connor is. And Mark and I really, I think, joined forces and found a cinematic way to try to tell her life story.
Was there anything between you both that was left on the cutting room floor that you're like, because there was so much information, it covered a lot of territory, you had a lot of very interesting famous people who contributed, how did you bring them in, and what was their involvement in the storytelling?
Well, absolutely. We, and Mark and I both had things that we would argue about and got left on the floor. Like there was a section on Gone with the Wind. O'Connor wrote a story sort of making fun of the premiere of Gone with the Wind in 1939, A Late Encounter with the Enemy. And that's a section that's going to be an extra. The film has been purchased by American Masters and will be on PBS. It's a shorter version, a different version. So the extra that I had to cut out is going to make it onto the PBS website at least. And so yes, we have had some arguments about that, but we wound up, agreeing on the best film story to tell. And with all the great writers and thinkers who've all published on O'Connor, everyone who's in the film has been published commenting on her work, or even like Bruce Springsteen writing songs around her book. Same with her stories. Same with Lucinda Williams. It just, with the great writers like Hilton Als and Alice Walker, Mary Carr, we asked them to read their favorite section, Tobias Wolff, their favorite from their favorite O'Connor story, or it could be letters. Mary Carr read from the Prayer Journal. So we really that helped a lot with the storytelling, getting these folks to choose their favorite passage, comment on it, and read it out loud.
Yeah, there was so. I mean, I think we had 40 hours of film to kind of cut down to 96 minutes, and it was hard. Although it was compromises, but there were things I would have loved to have everything that Rises Must Converge. It was mostly now about what stories could we tell, and things like that. We were maybe telling, which ones are the ones that are gonna really give us a sense of the pacing of a film and the narrative of the film. So that was one of them. There's some smaller pieces like that, but it was really an amazing experience of collaboration because I'm new to filmmaking. Like I said, except for doing some of the interviews and helping to raise money, it's really been listening to Elizabeth and her team, and then saying, I see why this, or what about this, and that kinds of thing. So my hat really goes off to Elizabeth for really kind of creating the arc of the film so beautifully through editing. But yeah, there's so much we could have put in there. And
one of the things that was mentioned in the film when her film was turned, John Huston directed Wise Blood. Wise Blood. They were saying at the end that they took John Huston's film and turned it into a Flannery film. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Well, one of the producer screenwriters for Wise Blood, Michael Fitzgerald, who was a big supporter of the documentary and helped recruit John Huston, he says, I really wanted an atheist to direct the film because I didn't want some kind of sloppy religious story, because she would have hated that. O'Connor wanted to be read and watched by the secular population, by the population that does not believe in God, as she said.
Let me just insert one thing as Elizabeth's talking. Michael Fitzgerald is the godson of Flannery O'Connor. So there's this relationship that he's writing the script and looking for an atheist because he thinks he can understand it. So I'm sorry, Elizabeth, I just want to say that there is a kind of a little family connection there.
Yeah, well, his own background was more secular than Catholic, but he was the son of Sally Fitzgerald. So with at the end of the version in our doc, we have Brad Dourif, the great actor in Wise Blood, commenting on what John Huston said, saying, by the end of this film, it wasn't so much my film, this was Flannery O'Connor's film, and says the atheist, Jesus wins.
Yeah. I think he thought he was going in thinking this was a comedy, just a comedy of errors kind of a film, kind of a light comedy of errors, and all of a sudden it became a very deep film. And it became a film that haunts kind of the character. And I think that's what he's like, all of a sudden, what I started out as a kind of a light comedy became really the story that is in the novel Wise Blood.
Well, as filmmakers and storytellers, is there any advice you would like to give other people who might be thinking of making a documentary? Or this is a filmmakers film festival, as we say. Just curious. Like you mentioned, you had some speed bumps a little bit, and what it is to be in the editing room, having to make those hard choices. So any advice you want to share?
Sure. Don't give up. keep if you've got a good story, which I did from the very beginning, and applying for grant money, getting donations, winning prizes, winning the Library of Congress Ken Burns Prize helped us finish well. And it really, starting with a good story and then crafting, just sticking with it until you feel confident that it's a story that American Masters will buy.
Yeah, I would just say the same thing, doggedness. It took us so long because we both had day jobs, so the ebb and flow of just getting money, don't let that stop you. And I do think one of the things that really have a passion for your subject, because you become the best voice for it, or your film will become it. So in the midst of questions about race and all that stuff, in some ways our films are kind of a response to that. And I was glad that Elizabeth and I could go on that journey to really make sure we went into all the archives, that we read everything. Just really totally immerse yourself in it. Become obsessive compulsive about your film. And that's how it was for me, at least.
Yeah.
There's so many documentaries that you see that leave you with a question. And other than wanting to, read some of her work, very honestly, after I saw the film, I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to ask, because I felt like you told everything. I'm like, I felt it was complete. I didn't feel, like, oh, I need to tie up a loose end. I need to ask this. And I really was struggling. What am I going to ask them? I have no idea, because I really feel like you did such a nice job. And I learned so much. I personally had never heard of Flannery. And you just brought it to light. But
wow, thank you.
We really want you to go out and read some of her fiction. That was part of our goal from the beginning, was to have Flannery O'Connor's name up there with William Faulkner's, or even preceding Faulkner's, and Eudora Welty, some of the well-known writers from Southern literature, but also, not just Southern literature, just a great American writer as Tommy Lee Jones.
yeah.
One other thing, I didn't say that I'm actually not Catholic. I grew up in the South as a Protestant. I have a sister who's a Presbyterian minister, and I have another sister who's Catholic who converted to Catholicism. So in my family and with Mark on this film also, we had a great debate, because so much of her storytelling is about that sort of Protestant Catholic tension. But also, I have a brother-in-law who was an immigrant. I have Jewish DNA. And so in O'Connor's work, she really has a sensibility. Her theology, absolutely. She personally was a devout Catholic and wrote about that. But her fiction is about immigration. She was writing after World War II. She was affected by the Holocaust. And she understood how bias can operate if you're an immigrant, if you have a religious background, and with your skin color, and with your accent, right? All it takes is your accent for people to think, oh, they're not very smart, are they? Yeah. So our love, and my love for O'Connor, is particularly because she crosses all those different levels and really is a writer for everybody.
Yeah, she is.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here with Flannery and bringing Flannery to the Sunscreen Film Festival. It's been great talking with you, and we hope to see you with future projects, or if you just come back to Florida.
Thanks, Julie.
And we're honored to be in it. So thank you to the audience.
Yeah, hope everybody enjoyed it.